Hello again, whiskey friends. My name is Jeff.
I'm Darrell.
And welcome to a whiskey review here. We're going to do something a little different here today. We have the opportunity where we have a whole bunch of samples that we haven't tried yet, some new releases here. And we get to go through those samples together. So Darrell and I are going to tag team this review.
Got a sample of Redwood Empire's new single barrels that they're going to be coming out with or already out now. But this is the bourbon. I know they got some ryes out on the tables. But I've never had anything at, this is an 8-year from them. I've always had just MGP offerings outside of, I think, like the younger, just regular Redwood Empire stuff.
So here's an example of the old label versus the new label. But they're reusing this brand now, but with their own distillate. So this used to be filled with some old MGP and finished. Even had some unfinished stuff. But now that they've transitioned away from that MGP, they got their own stuff. So if you're shopping and you're looking for this barrel, I pulled it up off the website since we just have samples. We don't have the actual bottle. But here's what it looks like now. So it is the Redwood Empire Haystack Needle. What we've seen, at least, is that these cost $130, at least based off of a picture that a friend gave us recently. Seen them as high as $150, though. So it does seem like these are high priced. 8 years old. This particular sample is a single barrel. It's 124.2 proof. It is the bourbon. The mash bill on this is 72% corn, 18% rye, 5% wheat, 5% malted barley. And then they do advertise that it's grain to glass and they only do 4 barrels a day. So their production for Redwood Empire isn't that big.
Full context. I've tried this. Jeff is going in fully blind, guys.
Cheater.
So I'm here for his reaction as well. But like I only had a half of an ounce, maybe a little less than that. So it's still kind of fresh for me, so I'm kind of anxious to go back in, see if what I remember is the same or if it changed a bit, but more so to see this guy's reaction to it.
As I get to explore the nose here, question for you. When it comes to Redwood Empire, what releases of theirs have you had? Because I feel like they've released so many different ones over the last 2 years. It's hard to keep track. My
first ever bottle of Redwood was the original Redwood Empire before it was Lost Monarch. It was a bourbon, I believe, but it was before they had the new label of the Lost Monarch. And I was like, oh man, this is good. I think it was a 90 or 100 proof bottle or whatever Redwood is. I think it's 90, but tasty. And I was like, dang. Then I've grabbed the Lost Monarch. I grabbed all the cash strength versions, which I was really excited about it. Then tasted them and was just like, oh, they're okay. I had some high hopes for the Monarch cash strength.
Tell you what, I'm digging this nose. What I wrote down on this one was a red Twizzler and a Rolo. So that would be almost like that hard, chewy caramel covered in chocolate. It's got that nice oak. I'm also getting a bit of mint or like a pine or something behind all that.
Yeah, for me, and going back to this now, like this reminded me of a whiskey that was older. And I think I told you that via text. Like the oak influence on this there's no denying it. Like it's kind of crazy that it's only 8 years old with the amount of oak like presence that you're getting. Like it's not like old oak either, but it's concentrated. But I dig the nose on this, man.
All right, just came out of tasting it there, recording notes and everything. Really impressed by it off of the initial impression. The mouthfeel is actually very rich and viscous. The notes that I wrote down were very dark up front, lots of burnt caramel, clove, pepper, and then by mid-palate, which I think was the surprising part, it brightens up into what I would describe as strawberry, even strawberry sweet cream. So curious to hear what you're getting out of that, Darrell.
Yeah, so it's funny because when we do this, guys, for everybody watching, like we kind of do it on our own, so we don't really share notes. But hearing you is kind of what some of my notes were. So up front, I have it as dark, oaky. Like it comes across a lot older to me than the 8-year age statement. So I don't know. Actually, it's a single barrel, so it really can't be older than 8 years, I guess. But mid palate kicks up a notch. You got strawberries. I have dark berries as my notes. Like I don't know what berry, but it's a very fruity, citrusy note. But I put dark berries, which you're getting berries as well, which is funny. But this surprised me the first sip that I had it, and it surprised me again because like you're not really expecting, I guess, this profile. Like we get so accustomed to MGP from them, right? And we sometimes get a little scared when they veer off that lane because MGP is typically so good. But I think they're doing something right over here, man. And it's a 4 grain too, which I'm not really used to having, but it's tasty. I really like it.
The finish, though, like I took a sip right when you started talking there, and the finish lasted throughout that entire thing too. So when I say it's rich and viscous up front, like that carries through to a nice long finish. I keep going back to this Rolo note, like that hard, chewy caramel covered in chocolate, but then still get those berries as well.
I
Those
love me
dark
some
berries.
Rolos. Used to be my movie candy. Rolos and Raisinets.
What are your final thoughts on this one?
Dude, I really like it. Price point for me is the issue. I wish this was a cheaper bottle, as good as it is, at 130, maybe 150 in some places. It's just a tough buy. Like there's a lot of bottles at that price point that I may pick over it, but it is still very, very good in my opinion. I just wish it was just a little cheaper, maybe closer to that $100 marker, maybe. We'll see if they change prices in the future. Probably not, but that's my thought on it. I think it's a very good whiskey. Definitely worth trying for sure. Just wish it was maybe $100 versus, that mid 100 price point.
Yep. I'm at the same spot at that one. I mean, they did say they're only making 4 barrels a day, so maybe there's some economies of scale there that are dictating that price, but around 100, this would be an easier recommend. But yeah, I don't know if I would pick up, given that this is a sample, I don't know that I would pick up my own bottle for 130, 150. Well, what's your final score on this one, Darrell?
So I was at an 86 on this. I'm not sure where Mr. Jeff was, but that 86 is a pretty good score for us. Mid 80s for us is like really good whiskey typically. The 90s are tough, but that's a pretty good score.
I'm right there. I'm in an 84, and I did get a sneak peek, so we did score this behind the scenes here, and I got to see Darrell's scores. He hasn't seen mine. We both gave it an 8 out of 10 on value. So had we have given it the full scores on value, if it was 10 out of 10, if the price was a little lower as an example, we're talking about 88, 86. So we are talking about a really, really good whiskey, but when it does come to the price paid there, compared to other things on the shelf, it's not necessarily the best bang for the buck.
So it's a really, really good whiskey. Just, like me and Jeff said, wish it was a little cheaper.
Right. Tell you what, though, that strawberry cream note that I keep getting just made my toes curl. Well, thank you for joining everybody for this review. Let us know what you think about this format as we do these things side by side, and we'll catch you on the next one. Goodbye, everybody.
Cheers, everybody.